I was sitting in my favourite armchair by the window, watching the autumn leaves slowly swirl through the evening air. In my hands was a book, an old Jane Austen novel that I had reread for the 10th time. It was in this moment of peace and tranquility that the front door slammed so hard the glass panes rattled. From the sound of hurried, almost running footsteps, I knew instantly it was Linda, as she was in complete despair. In 38 years of motherhood, I had learned to read my daughter's mood by the way she moved through the house. Light, almost dancing steps meant joy. Slow, heavy ones, fatigue after a hard day. But these, sharp, frantic as if she were running from something or towards something, always foretold a storm. Mum. Javier lost 300,000. I'm sorry, but you'll have to move into a nursing home and your house is going up for sale, my daughter announced from the doorway, without even saying hello. I slowly lifted my eyes from the book, took off my reading glasses, and looked at Linda. She stood in the living room doorway, dishevelled, with mascara streaked across her face, wearing a wrinkled business suit. Her expensive handbag, a birthday gift from Javier, hung crookedly from her shoulder, and her shoes were splattered with mud. She must have run from the car to the house, not bothering to avoid puddles. This house is not for sale, I replied calmly, carefully placing a bookmark between the pages. Mom, you don't understand, Linda burst into the room, waving her arms so wildly she nearly knocked over the floor lamp. It's not just a debt, it's a disaster. They're threatening us, threatening the kids. Sophie and Jake. I rose slowly from the chair, walked over to the antique cabinet, my grandmother's heirloom, and took out a crystal decanter of water. I poured a glass, added a slice of lemon, and handed it to my daughter. Sit down, drink some water, calm down, and tell me everything, from the beginning. We're going to the notary right now. Linda stomped her foot instead of sitting down. We don't have time to talk. They gave us only 24 hours. I said, this house is not for sale. What is wrong with you? Do you care more about these old walls than your own grandchildren? Linda grabbed a porcelain vase from the table, my mother's wedding gift to me, and hurled it at the floor with all her strength. The shards flew across the room. That's what I think of your precious house and all this old junk. Silently, I took a dustpan and brush from the cabinet and began gathering the fragments. My hands were trembling, not from fear, but from anger. Mom, stop. Forget the damn vase. This is life or death. Lily's death, I asked without looking up. The kids, my kids, your grandchildren, these people, they said if we don't return the money. What exactly did they say? Linda collapsed onto the couch, burying her head in her hands. They only came this morning. 2 men. Said Javier has 24 hours. If he doesn't pay at least half, they'll take the kids. Just take them after school and we'll never see them again. And you believed them. What else could I do? They showed me pictures. Sophie at the playground, Jake leaving school. They've been watching them. I carried the dustpan of shards to the kitchen, came back and sat down across from my daughter. Where are the kids now? At my friend Carol's. I told her it was an unplanned sleepover. Smark. And Javier? Bent. Trying to find the money, calling everyone he knows. And any luck? Linda gave a bitter smile. 10,000. His brother lent it. A drop in the ocean. Tell me everything from the beginning. How much does Javier owe, and to whom? 300,000! I owed you already. And these thugs want at least half by tomorrow. Owe it to whom? Banks, private lenders? What difference does it make? Mom, don't you get it? We don't have a choice. Your house is the only asset we can sell quickly. I leaned back in the chair. Say, the plan is, kick me, a 70-year-old woman, out of the home I've lived in for 40 years, sell it for a pittance, and hand the money over to some gangsters. That right. We'll find you a nice place. There are wonderful homes for old people. Hand your mother over to a nursing home to save your gambling addict husband. Javier is sick. He has an addiction. And how many times has he promised to quit? Linda froze. Well, you heard me. How many times has Javier promised to stop gambling? I'm not blind, Linda, and I'm not deaf. Remember 3 years ago when you cancelled the trip to Disneyland? Said Javier had an emergency at work. But in reality, man, or 2 years ago when you sold your car? Javier said he found a great lease deal, but I never saw a new car. That's none of your business. It is my business, because now you want to sell my house. I stood up and walked over to the fireplace, where family photos lined the mantel. You know why I never interfered? Because I remembered my own childhood. I remembered how my mother tried to save my father, the gambler, and how it ended. What are you talking about? I picked up an old black and white photograph. Your grandfather was a gambler too. Cards, dice, horse racing. He lost everything, down to the last cent. You never told me, because I didn't want to poison your childhood. But since you've come here demanding my house, you're going to listen. I returned to the armchair, still holding the photograph. I was 8 when my father lost all our savings. My mother worked 3 jobs just to feed us. And he kept gambling, stole things from the house, borrowed money from loan sharks. Mum, I understand, but... No, you don't understand anything. One winter, he gambled away my coat, my only warm coat. I had to go to school wearing my mother's old jacket. The kids laughed at me. The teachers pitied me. My voice trembled with the memory. Mum could have left him. Her sister invited us to California, promised to help, but Mum stayed. Do you know why? Because she loved him. Because she believed he would change, because she was afraid of judgment. And what happened? Dad died when I was 15, cirrhosis of the liver. Mum died 10 years later, her heart gave out. And I swore to myself I would never repeat her mistake. Linda jumped to her feet. This is different. Javier doesn't drink. He just gambles and loses and lies to you and puts the children in danger. He's their father. A bad father, Linda. Just like mine was. You just don't understand. You've always been so cold, so calculating. It was like that, so you wouldn't have to be, so you could have a happy childhood, a good education, the freedom to choose. And I chose Javier. No, you chose an illusion. And now you want me to pay for your choice. Linda stepped right up to me. Mum, listen, I understand your pain. I really do. But right now, this is about my children's lives. Your grandchildren. Are bricks and wood really more important than them? It's not about the house, Linda. It's about what comes next. I sell the house, you pay them off. And then, Javier starts gambling again. What will you sell next? Your apartment? Your car? The kids' college fund? We'll get treatment, I swear. Like your grandmother swore. Every time my father promised to quit. Linda fell to her knees in front of me. Mom, please, I'm begging you, for Sophie and Jake. I looked at my daughter, an accomplished businesswoman, a mother of 2, kneeling and pleading with me. And in that moment, I saw my own mother begging my father in exactly the same way to stop gambling. Get up, I said sternly. Guys, I said, get up. Don't humiliate yourself. Didn't stood up, wiping away her tears. Though you won't help, you're willing to sacrifice your grandchildren for the sake of your principles? No, I'm willing to help, just not the way you want. What do you, I stood and walked toward the staircase. Wait here. I went upstairs to the bedroom and opened the safe behind a painting. I took out a folder with documents and returned to the living room. What's that? Linda asked, eyeing the folder. Your father's life insurance. Dad's insurance. But you said, that all the money went toward the funeral. Yes, I lied. You lied? Why? Because I knew this day would come. I just didn't know when. I opened the folder and pulled out the documents. Your father insured his life for $500,000. Linda staggered slightly. 500,000? But how? Where did he get? He sold his share in the family business. Did it secretly without telling anyone. All these years, for the grandchildren, for their education, for their bright future. Linda rushed toward me. Mom, you're going to save us. I knew you wouldn't abandon us. Stop, I said, raising my hand. I will help, but on my terms. Relax any terms. Don't agree so quickly. Listen first. I sat down at the table and gestured for Linda to sit across from me. First condition, Javier goes to a rehabilitation clinic immediately. Not a therapist once a week, but full inpatient treatment. Minimum of 3 months. But his job, has a job. Or was he fired a while ago? Linda lowered her eyes. Fired 2 months ago. Just as I thought. Second condition, while Javier is in treatment, you and the kids live here. Your house will be rented out. But third condition, from now on, I control all your family's finances. Every cent. Every purchase. Mom, that's humiliating. No, Linda. What's humiliating is kneeling in front of your mother, begging her to sell her house. What's humiliating is hiding your children from criminals. What's humiliating is lying to yourself that your gambling husband is about to change. I pulled out another document. Fourth condition, you and Javier sign a property division agreement. If there's a relapse and a divorce, the house and custody of the children stay with you. You want us to get divorced. I want you to be protected. If Javier truly wants to save his family, he'll agree. Linda sat in silence, staring at the documents. And if he refuses, then there will be no help. He can deal with his debts on his own. But the kids can live here with you, but not with Javier. You're giving me an ultimatum. I'm giving you conditions, reasonable conditions to protect you and the grandchildren. At that moment, Linda's phone rang. She looked at the screen and turned pale. Yago Eve. Put it on speaker. Linda, where are you? They came again. Said time's running out. Where the hell are you? I took the... Javier, it's Margaret. Margaret? Thank God, is Linda with you? Is she okay? Yes, and I know about your problem. Margaret, I can explain. It's just a temporary setback. Stop lying, Javier, come here and bring all the documents related to the debts. You're going to help? Happily, if you agree to my terms. Any terms, Margaret, I swear. Any. Come, we'll talk. I ended the call and handed the phone back to Linda. Are you sure? My daughter asked. About what? That this is the right thing to do, giving conditions to a man in crisis. Linda, your husband is not in a crisis. He created the crisis for himself, for you, and for the children, and now he has to face the consequences. But we could just give him the money. We could. And in a year it'll happen again. Or in 2, or 5, and by then there'll be nothing left to sell. Linda stood and walked over to the window. You know, I always thought you were too strict, cold, calculating. Dad was kinder. Your father was a wonderful man, but he's the one who taught me to be tough. Right before he died, he said, Maggie, I'm leaving you the money, but promise me you'll use it wisely. Don't let your heart override your mind. He knew about Javier. He suspected. In his will, he wrote, if Linda ever needs help, help her, but don't just give her money, make her earn it. Make sure she learns to value it. An hour later, Javier arrived. He looked even worse than I had imagined. Unshaven, hands trembling, clothes rumpled. But what struck me most were his eyes. Empty, just like my father's in his worst days. Margaret, thank you for agreeing to help. I know I've let you all down. Sit down, Javier. Let's see the documents. The next hour, we went through his debts. The picture was grim. Loans from 3 banks, private lenders, IOUs to various so-called investors. Total? 380,000, I calculated. With interest. I thought I could win it back. That's what all gamblers think. Javier, I'm willing to pay off your debts, every cent. His face lit up. Margaret, you're saving us. I'll never forget. But there are conditions. I laid out all 4 conditions. With each one, his expression darkened. This sounds like prison. It sounds like treatment. You are sick, Javier. Either you get help or you lose your family. Linda, he turned to his wife, you agree with this? With this humiliation? Linda said nothing, staring down at the table. Linda? I agree, she said quietly. Mum's right. This can't go on. Javier shot to his feet. Traitor! You teamed up with her against me! I'm trying to save our family. Save it? You mean destroy it? I stood up. Javier, you have a choice. Accept my conditions and get a chance at a normal life, or refuse and deal with the debts on your own. And if I refuse, you'll just abandon your own grandchildren? No, I'll take them in, along with Linda, and you'll be left to face your problems alone. Javier looked at me with hatred. You never really liked me. I loved you, Javier, as a son-in-law, as the father of my grandchildren. But love doesn't mean blindness, and it doesn't mean funding someone else's vices. He sat back down, his head lowered. Do I have a choice? There's always a choice. Fine, I agree. All the conditions? I live them. I nodded. Good. Tomorrow morning we go to the bank. I'll withdraw cash to cover the most urgent debts. In the meantime, I'll start looking for a rehab clinic. Thank you, Javier mumbled. Don't thank me. Just get better and finally become a proper father to my grandchildren. After Javier left, Linda hugged me. You were right, as always. I'm just older and have more experience, and I remember life's lessons very well. We sat together, arms wrapped around each other, like we used to when Linda was little and came to me for comfort. What if he can't make it through treatment? What if he relapses? Then you'll make a decision, to stay with him or to leave. But now you'll have a choice, and protection. Thank you, Mum. You're welcome, sweetheart. I'm doing what every mother should do, protect her child, even if that child is 38 years old. We sat like that until evening, reminiscing about the past and making plans for the future. And when Linda left, I took out an old photo album and looked long at a picture of my mother. I'm sorry, Mum, I whispered. I couldn't save you, but I will save my daughter. I promise. The street lights outside flickered on. A new chapter was beginning in our family's life, difficult but necessary. And I was ready to walk that path with my daughter, because that's what a mother's love is. Not blind, not endlessly forgiving, but wise and strong. A love that sometimes has to be harsh in order to save the ones you love. The next morning, I woke up at 5, a habit from the days I worked night shifts as a nurse. Dawn was just breaking and the street outside was empty. I went downstairs, brewed a pot of coffee, and sat at the table with a notebook. Everything had to be carefully planned. Today would be full of challenges. Meeting with the creditors, finding a suitable rehab clinic for Javier, talking to a lawyer about the legal paperwork. I was making a to-do list when I heard the sound of a car in the driveway. Looking out the window, I saw Linda, and even from a distance I could tell she hadn't slept all night. She was carrying 2 large bags. "Good morning, Mum," she said as she walked into the kitchen. "I brought the kids' things. Can I pick them up after school and bring them here?" "Of course. I've already prepared the rooms. Sophie will be in your old bedroom and we'll set Jake up in the guest room." Linda sat at the table, and buried her face in her hands. I didn't sleep all night. I kept thinking, how could I have been so blind? All the signs were right in front of me and I just didn't want to see them. Love often makes us blind, I said, pouring her a cup of coffee. Your grandmother didn't want to see the truth either. It's a defense mechanism. The brain refuses to accept what causes pain. But you saw it. Why didn't you say anything? What would I have said? That your husband was lying to you, that he was gambling? Would you have believed me? Linda shook her head. Probably not. I would have thought you just didn't like Javier, that you were trying to drive us apart. Exactly. Some lessons have to be learned on your own. At that moment, my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. Hello? Mrs. Thompson, this is Michael Stone. Your son-in-law gave me your number. He said you're willing to discuss settling his debt. The voice was low, confident, professional. Yes, Mr. Stone, I'm willing to meet with you today. Excellent. I suggest we meet at my office in 2 hours. The address is… No, I interrupted. We'll meet at my lawyer's office. Or not at all. There was a pause. Fine, give me the address. I gave him the location of George Mitchell's office, our family attorney who had handled my late husband's affairs. See you soon, Mrs. Thompson, and bring the money in cash. See you soon, Mr. Stone. I hung up and looked at Linda. Let's go. We need to stop by the bank first, then head to George's. Mom, are you sure? Maybe we should call the police. And tell them what? That your husband willingly borrowed money from loan sharks. No, sweetheart. This is our problem, and we'll have to solve it ourselves. At the bank, I was greeted like an old friend. I'd been a client at that branch for over 30 years. The manager, personally, led me into his office. Mrs. Thompson, how can I help you today? I need to withdraw a large amount in cash. 400,000. The manager raised his eyebrows. That's a significant sum. May I ask what it's for? Family matters. I understand. But for a sum that large, we'll need to place an advance order and… Forgive me, but I'm required to ask, are you certain no one is coercing you? I smiled. James, I've known you for 15 years. Have you ever seen anyone successfully force me to do anything? He laughed. Very confident. No, I haven't. All right, let's get the paperwork started. The funds will be ready in an hour. While the money was being prepared, Linda and I drove to the lawyer's office. George Mitchell was about my age, with silver hair and sharp blue eyes behind thin-rimmed glasses. Margaret. Good to see you. And Linda, too. Is something wrong? I gave him a brief overview of the situation. George listened without interrupting, taking notes in his notebook. I see. And these people are coming here in an hour. All right, I'll prepare the necessary documents. They'll need to sign a receipt for the funds and a formal statement releasing any further claims. Do you think they'll agree? If they want the money, they'll agree. And one more thing, Margaret. I'd recommend recording the conversation, just in case. Exactly at the appointed time, 3 men appeared in the reception area. 2 of them were large, in dark suits, clearly security. The third was shorter, lean, around 50, wearing an expensive grey suit. Stone, George asked. That's me. And you must be Mrs. Thompson's attorney. George Mitchell, please come into my office. We gathered around a large table. The bodyguards remained standing at the door. So, Stone began, as I understand it, you're prepared to settle your son-in-law's debt. You're setting conditions, I replied. Conditions? Mrs. Thompson, your son-in-law borrowed money under our conditions. The deadline has passed. The interest is accruing. What kind of conditions could you possibly have? You'll receive the full amount, principal plus interest, but in return, you'll sign a document stating you have no further claims against my family. Stone smirked. Of course, we're honest businessmen. Debt is paid, no more claims. George slid the documents toward him. Then, sign here, and here, and here. Stone read the papers carefully, whispered something to one of the guards, then nodded. Everything's in order. Where's the money? He opened the case I brought from the bank. Stone nodded to the guard, who began counting the stacks. There's exactly 385,000, I said. Principal plus 3 months' interest. 400, Stone corrected. The IOU states 200,000 at 100% annual interest. That's 25% for 3 months. Total 250, plus the other debts. The grand total is 385. You're forgetting the late fee. There's no mention of late fees in the agreement. Stone frowned. Mrs. Thompson, do you realize who you're dealing with? I do. A fraud who preys on desperate people. But I'm paying exactly what's in the paperwork, not a cent more. A tense silence followed. The guards exchanged glances. Stone drummed his fingers on the table. Boss, one of the guards said quietly, the money's all here. Maybe it's enough? Stone looked at me, then at George, then back at me. Fine, 385. But if your son-in-law ever comes to me again, then won't I cut him off? Stone signed the documents, took the money, and left with his men. As the door closed behind them, Linda exhaled deeply. Oh my God, Mum, I thought my heart was going to jump out of my chest. People like that can smell fear, George said. Margaret, you were brilliant. But be careful. They might come back. I don't think so. They got what they wanted, and messing with me would be too costly. We got home around lunchtime. Javier was waiting for us in the living room, pale, anxious. Well, did everything go okay? The debt is paid, I said. Now it's your turn to fulfill your obligations. Yes, of course. I've already found a clinic, a good one in the mountains. They're ready to admit me tomorrow. Excellent. In the meantime, go home and start packing. The house needs to be prepared for rental. Margaret, I want to thank you again and to apologize for everything. No need for words, Amy. Prove through action that you can change. When he left, Linda hugged me. Mom, I don't even know how to thank you. You don't need to. Just call the realtor about renting out the house. And you need to pick up the kids from school. Yes, of course. I'll go now. And you? You should rest. You've had a long day. I've had worse, I said with a smile. That evening, the house was filled with the sound of children's voices. Sophie and Jake were a bit shy at first, but they settled in quickly. I made their favourite lasagna, and we had a family dinner. Grandma, why are we going to live with you? Jake asked. Dad has to go away for work for a few months, Linda replied, and we'll stay here in the meantime. You like it at Grandma's, don't you? Yes, Grandma has a big garden and an attic full of old stuff. Exactly. Now, finish your dinner and get ready for bed. School tomorrow. After the kids were asleep, Linda and I sat in the kitchen, drinking tea. You know, Mum, I've been thinking a lot today. About you, about Grandma, about everything you told me. And I realized you were right. You were always right. I just didn't want to see it. We all make mistakes, darling. What matters is recognizing them in time and correcting them. Do you think Javier will make it? I don't know. That depends entirely on him. But now you have a choice and protection. Thank you, Mum, for everything. I gently stroked her hand. I'm your mother. I'll always protect you, even from your own mistakes. The next morning, Javier left for the clinic. Before leaving, he hugged the kids, kissed Linda, and shook my hand. Thank you for the second chance, Margaret. Use it wisely, Javier. As his car disappeared round the corner, Linda sighed, thinking aloud. A new life begins. The main thing is not to repeat old mistakes, I replied. The following weeks were filled with tasks and responsibilities. We found tenants for Linda's house, a young couple with a child. We negotiated loan restructuring with the banks, got all the legal documents signed by the notary. The children quickly adapted to their new routine. Sophie helped me in the garden, and Jake discovered my old stamp collection in the attic and became fascinated with philately. Letters from Javier started to arrive. At first, angry and blaming, then calmer, and by the end of the month, nearly remorseful. The doctors said there was progress, but the road ahead was long. "Mum," Linda said one evening at dinner, "I'm thinking of starting over. Maybe going back to university, getting a master's degree." "That's a great idea. I'll look after the kids." "Be sure. It's such a big burden. Linda, I raised you alone, working 2 jobs, 2 grandkids. That's a joy, not a burden." She smiled, and for the first time in many weeks, I saw her old carefree smile. "You know, Dad was right." "About what?" "And he always said you were the strongest woman in the world. I only understand that now." I turned toward the window to hide my tears. The sun was setting outside, painting the sky in golden and crimson hues. "I'm just doing what I must, darling. What every mother does, protecting her family, and at the cost of being harsh. Your grandmother was the only way to show real love. Your grandmother was too soft, too forgiving, and it destroyed her. I won't make the same mistake." That evening, when everyone had gone to bed, I took out the old photo album and looked at the pictures for a long time. There was my mother, young, beautiful, full of hope. There was my father, charming, smiling, not yet knowing the pain he would bring to his family. And there I was, a little girl in a patched-up dress, but with her head held high. "I kept my promise, Mum," I whispered, touching the photograph with my fingers. "I protected my daughter and my grandchildren. The story won't repeat itself." Outside, a quiet autumn rain was falling. In the house, the people I loved most were fast asleep. I sat in my favorite armchair sipping cold tea, thinking how sometimes love demands that we be firm, that we say no when everyone else says yes, that we cause pain to prevent a greater tragedy. It's a lesson I learnt at a painful cost, but now that lesson will help my daughter and my grandchildren live better lives. And isn't that the essence of motherhood? Not just to pass down love, but the wisdom earned through our own mistakes and sorrow. I closed the album and went to bed. Tomorrow would be a new day, and we would face it together, strong, free from illusions, ready for anything. Because now we know true love is not always soft and forgiving. Sometimes it must be as strong as steel to protect those you love, even from themselves. And months passed. Winter had taken over, covering the city in a white blanket. The children were delighted with the snow. Every weekend we built snowmen in the garden and went sledding on the nearby hill. Linda had enrolled in prep courses for her master's program and now spent her evenings buried in textbooks. One such evening, when the kids were asleep and Linda was studying, the doorbell rang. Javier was standing on the doorstep. I didn't recognize him at first. He had lost weight but looked healthier. No more dark circles under his eyes, and a healthy flush had returned to his face. He was holding a small suitcase in his hands. "Margaret, may I come in?" I stepped aside, letting him into the house. "Javi's back." Linda ran into the hallway but stopped, uncertain. He said quietly. I was discharged early. The doctor said I'm ready." We went into the living room. Javier sat on the edge of the couch, clearly nervous. "I've done a lot of thinking these past 3 months," he began, "about everything I did, about how I let all of you down, especially the kids." "They may miss you," Linda said. "I miss them too. I miss all of you. Margaret, I want to thank you. If it weren't for your firmness, I probably would have lost my family and myself." I nodded but said nothing. Words of gratitude mean little. Actions are what matter. "What do you plan to do now?" I asked. "Find a job." The clinic helped me put together a resume, gave me some references. "And?" "I'd like to come home, back to the family." Linda looked at me, then at her husband. Javier, the house is rented out, remember? We agreed? I remember. Maybe we could rent a small apartment. Start over? With what money? I asked bluntly. Javier pulled an envelope from his pocket and placed it on the table. While I was in treatment, I worked in the clinic's workshop. Carpentry. Turns out I'm pretty good at it. I earned a little. Enough to get started. I opened the envelope. Inside was about $2,000. Not much, but honestly earned. And what about the urge to gamble? I asked. It's still there, Javier admitted honestly. The doctors say it's like alcoholism, something you live with forever. But I've learned how to manage it. I have a sponsor, someone who went through the same thing. I go to support group meetings. And you think that's enough? No, that's why I prepared this. He pulled a folder of documents from his suitcase. This is an agreement. I give up the right to manage any family finances. All accounts, all cards will be in Linda's name only. I'll receive only pocket money at her discretion. Linda took the documents and skimmed through them. Are you serious? Absolutely. And one more thing. I'll report every move I make, where I'm going, who I'm meeting, when I'll be back. Total transparency. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, snow was falling. Large, fluffy flakes. You know, Javier, my father also promised to change. Many times. I understand your skepticism, Margaret, and I'm not asking you to take my word for it. Just give me a chance to prove it with actions. Mom? Linda looked at me questioningly. I turned to them. It's not my decision, dear. He's your husband. It's your family. The choice is yours. Linda was silent for a long time, glancing back and forth between Javier and the documents. All right, she said finally. But we're not rushing anything. First, you'll find a job, get an apartment, prove that you can support a family. In the meantime, we'll stay here. I agree, Javier said, standing up. Can I see the kids? Just for a moment? Even from a distance? They're asleep. I know. I just want to look at them. Please. Linda nodded, and they went upstairs. I stayed in the living room, lost in thought. Can a person truly change? Or is this just another illusion? 10 minutes later, they came back down. Harry's eyes were red. They've grown so much these past months. Children grow fast, I said, especially when you're not around to see it. I deserve that, he nodded. All your reproaches, but I'll prove I've changed. I promise. When the door closed behind him, Linda sat down next to me. What do you think, Mum? Did I do the right thing? You gave him a chance, but you're keeping your distance. That's wise. And if he relapses, then you'll be prepared. You have a home, a job, support. You're no longer dependent on him. You know what's strange? I almost hope he makes it. But he's strange. He's the father of your children. Yes. But over these past months, I realized I can live without him. That I'm stronger than I thought. I hugged my daughter. That's the most important lesson. Not that men are bad, or that you can't trust anyone, but that you can handle anything life throws at you, that you're strong enough to protect yourself and your children. In the weeks that followed, Harriet truly did look for work. Every day he sent Linda updates. Where he went for interviews, who he met with. On weekends he visited the kids, but always left before evening. After a month he found a job, not as prestigious as before, but steady, an accounting position at a small firm. 2 weeks later he rented an apartment, a modest 2-bedroom in a decent neighborhood. Mum, he's really trying, Linda said over dinner. Maybe it's time to give him a real chance. Are you ready? I don't know. Maybe I am. The kids miss him. And I do too. Then try. But remember, you always have a way back. This house will always be open to you and the children. At the beginning of spring, Linda and the kids moved in with Javier. I helped pack their things, though my heart ached with worry, but I knew this was their life, their choice. Mum, we'll come visit every weekend, Linda promised, and you should come to us, too. Of course. When the car carrying my family disappeared around the corner, I returned to the now empty house. It was quiet, unusually quiet after months of children's laughter and footsteps. I sat in my armchair by the window and picked up a book, but I couldn't read. My thoughts kept drifting back to Javier, to his promises, to the hope in Linda's eyes. Can a person truly change? Can love conquer addiction? I didn't know the answer, but I did know one thing. No matter what happens, my daughter is ready now. She's strong, independent, and capable of protecting herself and her children. And that, perhaps, is the most important thing a mother can teach. That evening, Linda called. Mum, we're settled in. The kids love their rooms. Javier made dinner. Can you believe it? He learnt to cook at the clinic. I'm happy for you, sweetheart. Mum, thank you for everything. If it hadn't been for you, for how firm you were back then, I don't know where we'd be now. I did what I had to do. No, Mum, you did what only you could do, because you had the strength to be harsh, for the sake of love. After the call, I sat in the dark for a long time, looking out at the city lights through the window. Memories rose in my mind. My mother bent over her sewing by the light of a kerosene lamp because my father hadn't paid the electricity bill. My father, crying and swearing it was the last time. Me, hiding my torn shoes from my classmates. And then, other memories. Linda in her graduation dress, the wedding, the birth of my grandchildren, and now, a new chance for her family. Maybe the cycle really has been broken. Maybe tough love was exactly what was needed. Time will tell. And in the meantime, I'll be here, always ready to support, protect, and help. But I will no longer let weakness ruin the lives of those I love. Because sometimes the kindest act is to say no, the most loving gesture is to push someone away, the greatest help is to make a person help themselves. That lesson came at a great cost, but now it has been passed to the next generation. And I truly hope, that my grandchildren won't have to learn it the hard way. And again, don't they say history repeats itself? No, not this time. Not in my family. I got up, turned off the light, and went to bed. Tomorrow would be a new day, and whatever it may bring, I'll be ready. Because I am a mother, a grandmother, and the keeper of family wisdom earned through sweat and pain. And I will do whatever it takes to protect my loved ones, even if it means being harsh. Especially if it means being harsh. Because that is what true love is. The willingness to cause pain in order to prevent a greater tragedy. Life taught me that lesson. I taught it to my daughter. And, God willing, my grandchildren will learn it too.